The Galactic Assembly no longer sounded like a place of reason. It sounded like a shelter seconds before collapse. Voices overlapped in dozens of languages, some sharp with accusation, others thin with fear. Holographic star maps rotated above the chamber, once vibrant with color, now punctured by expanding voids where systems had gone dark. Each extinguished light represented a world that no longer existed. The car fleets crossed the Yellorn belt within 3 cycles, a reptilian delegate said, his scaled hands trembling as he gripped the podium. Our defenses failed in under an hour. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Another representative rose immediately. Hour? They erased us in 17 minutes, she snapped. 17. Civilian evacuation ships were still launching. The word civilian carried weight. It always did. Ambassador Elias Monroe remained seated. From his position near the outer arc of the assembly floor, Elias observed everything without expression. He noted posture, breathing patterns, the way certain delegates avoided looking at the central displays. Fear had a rhythm. Panic had a shape. Humanity had learned both long before it ever reached the stars. A sharp chime cut through the noise. Order! Intoned the assembly moderator, a towering avian species whose feathers had dulled from stress. Order! We will hear the next report. A hologram expanded, showing the fractured remains of a ring world. Shattered arcs drifted like bones through vacuum. The Talaris Accord is gone, the presenter said quietly. No survivors confirmed. Silence followed. Not respectful silence. Hollow silence. Someone laughed once. It was short, brittle, and immediately stopped. The Car Dominion delegates sat together, unmoving. Their armor reflected the holographic ruins without distortion. They did not whisper. They did not react. Confidence radiated from them as tangibly as heat. One of them leaned forward. You see? The car envoy said, his voice smooth and amplified just enough to carry. Resistance only prolongs suffering. Surrender preserves what little remains. A chorus of protests erupted. Your mercy is extinction. You butcher entire populations. You don't negotiate. The envoy inclined his head slightly. We negotiate with outcomes. You refuse to accept them. Elias tapped a note into his console. Timestamp. Phrase selection. Psychological posture. A small avian delegate turned toward the human section. Her eyes lingered there longer than etiquette allowed. Finally, she stood. Humanity has observed this war from the beginning, she said, voice wavering but audible. You document our losses. You monitor fleet movements. You sell us relief supplies. But you do not fight. Several heads turned. Why? She asked. Your species survived planetary wars. Internal annihilation. You claim to value cooperation. So why do you remain silent while we disappear? The chamber stilled. Elias did not look up. The moderator hesitated. The human delegation may respond if it wishes. Elias continued typing. His breathing stayed even. A murmured comment drifted from a nearby delegate. Cowards! Another replied, quieter. Or planners. The car envoy smiled. Let them watch, he said. Observers are harmless. Elias finished his note and closed the display. Only then did he lift his gaze, meeting the moderator's eyes briefly. He shook his head once. No response. The avian delegate sat slowly, her feathers sagging. Proceedings resumed, but the mood had shifted. Desperation sharpened into something closer to despair. Delegates proposed fractured strategies, retreat deeper into neutral zones, abandon border systems, sacrifice entire species to buy time. Each idea collapsed under its own fear. Then the emergency channel flared red. Unscheduled transmission, the moderator announced. Priority 1. The image that appeared was unstable, streaked with interference. A convoy drifted across the display, medical vessels, refugee carriers, their hulls marked with neutral insignia. A human voice crackled through the feed. This is Relief Ship Horizon Reach. We are under. The signal fractured. The image lurched as energy signatures spiked. A Dominion cruiser slid into view. Weapons fired. The feed cut. For several heartbeats, no one spoke. Then a technician's voice echoed, barely controlled. Convoy destroyed. No escape signatures detected. The moderator swallowed. Species identification? A pause. Mixed. 3 Alliance races. And human. Elias stood. The movement was small, but it pulled attention like gravity. Names? He asked. The technician hesitated. Medical staff. Civilian families. Non-combatants. The car envoy shrugged. Collateral. Elias's jaw tightened. Only slightly. Around the chamber, fear shifted into something rawer. Guilt. Realization. The war was no longer distant. It had reached into neutrality and torn something out. The moderator looked toward Elias. Ambassador Monroe. Elias inclined his head. Proceed. Proceed. Not forgive. Not forget. As the assembly spiraled back into argument, Elias accessed a private channel. His advisor's face appeared, pale and tight. They crossed the line, she said. They crossed it long ago, Elias replied. We just pretended otherwise. On the central display, the star map updated again. Another system dimmed. This one closer than the last. Close enough that the designation tag blinked with a familiar marker. Human adjacent space. Elias closed his eyes for one measured breath. The assembly believed humanity was silent because it was afraid. They had no idea how wrong they were. The assembly recessed, but the war did not. Corridors once designed for ceremony now pulsed with urgency. Delegates clustered in tight knots, voices lowered, eyes darting toward the human wing as if neutrality itself might overhear them. The destruction of the convoy had changed the temperature of the citadel. Fear had gained direction. Elias Monroe moved through it unnoticed. That, too, was deliberate. Inside a secured chamber, representatives from 5 allied species argued over a circular table. Holographic projections hovered between them, fleet paths, casualty curves, shrinking margins of survival. They knew humans were aboard, snapped the lithic envoy, his crystalline surface flickering with agitation. That attack wasn't random. Then it was a message, another replied. One aimed at us all. A third voice cut in. No. It was aimed at them. The room fell quiet. They won't intervene, the lithic envoy said bitterly. They never do. They intervene differently, said the avian delegate from earlier, her voice steadier now. They observe. They measure. That's worse. It means when they act, it will be final. Across the citadel, in a chamber sealed behind layered encryption fields, Elias stood before a projection of human space. Lines traced outward like veins, connecting industrial hubs, research arcs, and defensive shells that officially did not exist. Rear Admiral Chen's image stabilized beside him. Dominion probes confirmed, she said. Stealth capable. Long range. So neutrality is over, Elias replied. Chen exhaled. It was over the moment they mapped our jump corridors. Another figure joined, Director Al-Masri of Strategic Development. The Assembly still believes we're undecided. They need to, Elias said. Panic spreads faster than truth. Al-Masri studied him. And what do you believe? Elias did not answer immediately. He watched the projection shift, simulated Dominion fleet vectors inching closer. I believe that if we move too soon, we become the enemy they expect. If we move too late, we become irrelevant. Or extinct, Chen added. Yes, Elias said. That too. In the Assembly's upper gallery, High Executive Vraxel observed the chaos with mild interest. His posture was relaxed, armored limbs resting comfortably as if the citadel belonged to him already. When one of his subordinates leaned close, Vraxel did not turn. Human response remains non-existent, the subordinate said. Vraxel's mandibles flexed in something resembling amusement. As predicted. Young species cling to survival. They mistake delay for wisdom. They possess advanced industry, the subordinate noted. Their military history is primitive, Braxel interrupted. Internal conflict does not translate to dominance. They fractured themselves for centuries and barely survived. That is not strength. That is inefficiency. The subordinate hesitated. And if they have learned from it? Braxel turned then, eyes cold. Learning does not erase fear. Back in the assembly chamber, proceedings resumed under the moderator's strained authority. Reports came faster now, each worse than the last. Border defenses collapsed. Supply lines vanished. Entire populations fled into space with nowhere left to run. A delegate stood, scales dulled with exhaustion. We cannot hold another cycle. We need decisive action. From whom? Someone shouted. The answer hovered unspoken. Elias listened as accusations surfaced again. Humanity hoarded resources. Humanity profited from relief contracts. Humanity waited while others bled. He requested no rebuttal. Instead, he requested data. The moderator granted it reluctantly. Elias rose and crossed to the central console, his steps unhurried. He did not address the chamber. He adjusted parameters, expanding a projection of Dominion movements. These are confirmed assaults, he said. This is where you believe the front is. The map shifted. And this, Elias continued, his voice calm, is what you haven't seen. Hidden vectors appeared, feints, false retreats, ghost fleets bypassing resistance entirely. A murmur rippled through the delegates. They aren't advancing randomly, Elias said. They're shaping the battlefield. For something larger. Braxel smiled faintly. And this, Elias added, highlighting a distant arc, is where those vectors converge. The label flickered into focus. Human-adjacent space. Silence returned, heavier than before. You see, Elias said, turning now, neutrality does not deter predators. It only delays the hunt. The avian delegate stood. Then why wait? Elias met her gaze. Because intervention without readiness costs lives. Including yours. And if waiting costs more? She asked. That, Elias replied, is the calculation we are still making. Braxel rose slowly, armor plates shifting with deliberate sound. Your calculation is flawed, he said, addressing the chamber but watching Elias. There is no choice left. Only inevitability. Elias inclined his head slightly. History disagrees. Your history is insignificant, Braxel said. Short. Violent. Unrefined. True, Elias replied. But it taught us something. Braxel's eyes narrowed. Which is? That survival is not about avoiding war, Elias said. It's about choosing when to end it. The car executor laughed, the sound echoing harshly. Bold words from a species hiding behind diplomacy. Elias returned to his seat without another word. In the private channel, Chen's voice returned, urgent. We've confirmed it. Dominion staging fleets beyond the Persei Veil. Enough to threaten Seoul within 2 cycles. Elias closed his eyes briefly. Not in despair. In focus. Then the window is closing, he said. What's the order? Chen asked. None, Elias replied. Not yet. Outside the chamber, refugees arrived in waves, their faces carrying the same question. How long will humanity wait? Elias watched the assembly fracture under the weight of that question and understood the truth they could not yet accept. Neutrality had never been the goal. Timing was. And time, at last, was running out. The refugees arrived without ceremony. They were escorted through the citadel's lower docks in long, silent lines, carrying what little they had managed to save. Some clutched sealed containers filled with data cores or family relics. Others carried nothing at all, their hands empty, their eyes distant. The war had stripped them down to essentials, and even those were slipping away. Elias Munro stood on an observation platform as the first transport sealed behind them. No cameras followed him here. No delegates watched. This was not diplomacy. This was consequence. A young delegate from the Keshri Union stood nearby, her posture rigid as she observed her people disembark. They told us the evacuation corridor was secure, she said. They waited until the last ship launched. Elias nodded. That's how the Dominion fights. They want survivors to spread fear. Her voice tightened. They succeeded. Below them, a child looked up through the glass barrier, eyes wide, searching faces for something familiar. Elias held the gaze for a moment, then turned away. Later, inside a private chamber shielded from assembly oversight, Elias convened a human council. The atmosphere was heavy, not with argument, but with restraint. Rear Admiral Chen stood with arms folded. Director Al-Masri sat forward, hands clasped. Intelligence officers projected data across the walls, intercepted transmissions, casualty estimates, Dominion fleet logistics. We can intervene now, Chen said. Limited engagement. Disrupt their supply lines. Buy the Alliance time. And reveal our full capabilities, Al-Masri countered. Before we control the narrative. Elias listened without interruption. A younger strategist spoke up. The Assembly already assumes the worst. Waiting only confirms their doubts. No, Elias said quietly. Waiting confirms our discipline. Chen exhaled sharply. Discipline won't stop them from reaching Seoul. It will, Elias replied. If it gives us the moment we need. Silence followed. Not disagreement. Consideration. Human history weighed on the room like gravity. They remembered what happened when fear dictated action. When wars were entered for pride, or revenge, or haste. Humanity had survived by learning to pause when instinct screamed to strike. A chime interrupted the meeting. Emergency assembly session. An automated voice announced. All senior envoys requested. The chamber was already half full when Elias arrived. Refugee representatives sat alongside diplomats now, their presence impossible to ignore. Grief had a way of cutting through protocol. A trembling figure approached the podium. My world, he said, voice cracking, was neutral. We had no fleets. No weapons. They still came. The chamber listened. They told us surrender would spare our children. He continued. Then they took them. Several delegates turned away. Elias felt the shift inside himself. Not rage. Clarity. Before the assembly could dissolve into accusation, Elias stepped forward. Neutrality, he said, is not immunity. It never has been. The moderator inclined his head. Then what do you propose, Ambassador? I propose patience, Elias replied. Measured response. Preparation. A chorus of objections followed. How many more must die while you prepare? Your patience costs lives. Elias raised a hand, not to silence them, but to steady the room. Every action in war costs lives, he said. The difference is whether those lives buy an ending, or merely delay another report like the ones you've just heard. A new alert flared across the central display. Priority 1. Civilian frequency. The feed stabilized into the image of a medical frigate drifting amid debris. Its hull was scarred, engines venting atmosphere. A human medic appeared on screen, blood streaked across her uniform. This is Mercy Run 7, she said, voice strained. We're taking fire. Evacuees aboard. Request immediate. The transmission jolted violently. Weapons fire lit the screen. The image fragmented. Then darkness. For several seconds, no one breathed. A technician spoke, barely audible. No survivors. The casualty summary followed, clinical and unforgiving. Human personnel. Families. Volunteers. Elias felt something inside him lock into place. The car envoy stood, armor gleaming. An unfortunate miscalculation, he said smoothly. War is chaotic. Elias turned toward him. You targeted a marked relief vessel. It was in our operational zone. With human citizens aboard. The envoy shrugged. Your neutrality did not exempt them. Elias held his gaze. Then neither does it protect you. The room froze. For the first time, the car envoy's expression shifted. Just slightly. Before he could respond, the chamber lights dimmed. A massive figure materialized above the assembly floor. High Executive Vraxel. Enough, Vraxel said, his voice reverberating through the citadel. This charade ends now. Delegates recoiled as the projection sharpened. You debate while the galaxy burns, Vraxel continued. Your alliances fail. Your defenses crumble. I offer you clarity. He leaned forward. Surrender. Or be erased. His gaze swept the chamber, then settled on Elias. And humanity, Vraxel added, will be dealt with soon enough. The transmission ended. No one spoke. Elias closed his eyes for a single breath. When he opened them, the hesitation that had once lived there was gone. He turned to the moderator. I request full speaking rights at the next session. The moderator hesitated, then nodded. As the assembly dispersed in shaken silence, Chen's voice crackled in Elias's private channel. Orders? Elias looked once more at the darkened screen where the relief ship had vanished. Stand by, he said. We move soon. Outside the chamber, the refugees waited. Inside, the galaxy held its breath. And humanity reached the edge of waiting. The assembly reconvened under silence so complete it felt engineered. No arguments erupted. No side discussions whispered through translation fields. Delegates sat rigid, eyes fixed on the central dais where the moderator waited, feathers drawn tight against his frame. The refugee representatives remained, standing this time, as if sitting implied surrender. When the car delegation entered, armored and unhurried, the air shifted. Confidence followed them like a shadow. High Executive Vraxel did not project this time. He attended in person, towering above most of the chamber, his presence a calculated insult. Proceed, the moderator said, voice carefully neutral. Vraxel did not waste a moment. The Dominion has concluded its assessment, he announced. This assembly no longer serves a functional purpose. A ripple of restrained outrage passed through the hall. You will surrender control of remaining Alliance space, Vraxel continued. Your fleets will stand down. Your populations will comply. Resistance ends today, a delegate shouted. You'll slaughter us regardless. Vraxel inclined his head. Compliance reduces inefficiency. Then his gaze found Elias. As for humanity, Vraxel said, your relevance window is closing. Your neutrality has been noted. It will not save you. Elias rose. The sound of his chair retracting echoed louder than expected. I request the floor, he said. Vraxel's mandibles flexed. You've had cycles to speak. And you've had centuries to listen, Elias replied. The moderator hesitated, then nodded. The human ambassador is recognized. Elias walked to the center slowly, deliberately. He did not project force. He did not raise his voice. He stood as a man who understood precisely where he was and why. When humanity reached the stars, Elias began. We believed we had escaped our violent history. The chamber listened. We were wrong. Violence followed us, not because we sought it, but because we understood it. Vraxel scoffed quietly. We come from a world that tried to kill us, Elias continued. Storms, quakes, plagues. And when that wasn't enough, we did the rest ourselves. Images flickered across the display. Earth's wars, cities in ruins, smoke-stained skies. We learned early that survival is not about strength alone, Elias said. It's about restraint. About knowing when not to strike. A delegate whispered. Then why now? Elias turned toward the sound. Because restraint has limits. He faced Vraxel again. You mistake our silence for fear. It wasn't. It was calculation. Vraxel laughed openly. You calculated while worlds burned. Yes, Elias said. So that when we acted, the burning would stop. The chamber stilled. We studied your campaigns, Elias continued. Your logistics. Your command doctrine. Your arrogance. Vraxel's smile faded. You believe young species crumble under pressure, Elias said. Humanity does not. Pressure is where we were forged. A pause. Then Elias spoke the sentence that fractured the war. We are joining the war. No translation delay. No distortion. Shock rippled outward like a physical force. Some delegates rose instinctively. Others stared, unmoving, as if the words might rearrange themselves. Vraxel laughed again, short, sharp. You are too late. Elias nodded once. We're right on time. He gestured. The central display shifted. Human fleet signatures bloomed across contested space. Not appearing. Revealed. Task forces positioned along Dominion supply arteries. Defensive formations already enveloping refugee corridors. Strike groups holding beyond detection range. We did not wait to decide, Elias said. We waited to be ready. Vraxel's posture stiffened. These fleets have been active for weeks, Elias continued. Protecting evacuation routes. Intercepting covert probes. Mapping your weaknesses. A Dominion officer whispered urgently to Vraxel. He ignored it. You hid, Vraxel said. We prepared, Elias replied. There's a difference. The avian delegate stepped forward, voice shaking. You could have told us. Elias met her eyes. Then you would have panicked. Or leaked it. Or begged us to rush. Silence acknowledged the truth. We fight differently, Elias said, addressing the chamber now. We prioritize civilians. We dismantle command chains. We end wars by removing the ability to continue them. Vraxel snarled. You think mercy wins battles? No, Elias said. We think endings do. A new alert chimed. Dominion flagship shields destabilizing. Vraxel turned sharply. What have you done? Elias did not smile. What you taught us to. The tactical feed showed coordinated human strikes, not overwhelming, not reckless. Precise. Surgical. Dominion escorts disabled. Communications severed. Engines crippled. They're not destroying it, someone whispered. They don't need to, Elias said. Vraxel's projection flickered as internal alarms echoed across the chamber. For the first time, uncertainty crept into his posture. You will regret this, Vraxel said. Possibly, Elias replied. But the galaxy won't. The moderator found his voice. Ambassador Monroe, what does humanity seek in return? Elias looked around the chamber. At the refugees. At the broken delegates. At the war-worn map. Partnership, he said. Accountability. And an end to this. Outside the Citadel, human fleets moved. Inside, the war changed direction. And across the galaxy, a truth settled with terrifying clarity. Humanity had not arrived to conquer. It had arrived to finish what others could not.